Stanley Mathabatha has been re-elected as Limpopo ANC chairperson. There were also elective conferences in Gauteng. Dada Morero is the new chair in Johannesburg, while Tshwane, of course, has Eugene Modise, who defeated Kgosi Maepa. But for more analysis on these developments, we're now joined by political analyst Lebogang Legodi. Lebogang Legodi, thank you for your time. Good morning to you. We'll get into, the new leadership, I suppose, in these different regions. But let's start with, of course, the two most significant regions, of course, being Tshwane and Johannesburg, right? We know that they also were not spared of, disputes within branches, delays. Can you just describe for us the journey leading up to this past weekend for the ANC?
Thank you very much and good morning to you and your viewers. I think with Greater Johannesburg and the win of Dada Morero, it's a good thing. I'm saying this looking at the fact that, they've managed to win against the slate of Unison Prima. But in the Johannesburg regional conference, we've seen a mixed of two slates where, Mprima's slate managed to secure the Deputy Secretary General as well as the Treasurer General. And when you look at Tshwane instead, Bozo's slate it managed to win an overwhelming as compared to their slate, the opposing slate. So in both Tshwane as well as Johannesburg, I think moving towards the provincial conference is going to be very interesting, and I think there's a lot that's going to be happening that side.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned Tshwane because you're absolutely right. Eugene Modise there winning by quite a big margin in comparison to Kgosi Maepa. What's the message there from branch members in terms of electing Eugene so decisively, do you think?
I think, just like in your Limpopo province, it shows that, to some extent there's a bit of a unity, because looking at, the large margin in Tshwane as well as in the Limpopo province, it shows that to some extent one could argue that there's some form of a unity and agreement as to, who the branches want to be there. Yeah.
Yeah, and moving on to Limpopo, obviously, Stanley Mathabatha also seeing quite a victory there. He also vowed that he would be working alongside, the other contender who unfortunately did not make it. And we're seeing there the president also addressing members within the Limpopo conference. But for Stan Mathabatha now to win another term, is he a favorite within the region in Limpopo?
Oh, yes, I would argue that he is the favorite. I mean, if you look at the margin, really, it speaks to the fact that, a lot of people in the Limpopo province were for Stan Mathabatha. And even having the rest of his slate going in, it shows that, they did the work on the ground and the branches are really for Mathabatha. Of course, he's in for a third term and, moving forward, there's going to be a need to talk about who would be the next premier-elect, because he's already served his two terms as the premier of the province.
Right, but Lebogang, we need to admit that this hasn't been a smooth journey for the ANC's regional conferences. I mean, even David Makhura in Gauteng lamenting the conflict between branch members. I know that even in Tshwane they had to disperse security, tight security, sending out quite a strong message there is that for any branch member who may even think of causing any disruptions, they need to think twice because they would not tolerate that. What do you think informed the delays and the disruptions that we have seen leading up to this past weekend's conferences?
I think there's a plethora of, reasons why there were such delays. One would speak of, the factions within the ANC. Another thing, they need to check the credentials of people who are going to attend those conferences. And I think really that is something that the ANC should really look into. I mean, if you look at the Limpopo province, everything went quite swiftly, I would argue. And I think, that should be the case, with, the upcoming conferences where, the ANC could really get a thing or two within the Limpopo province. There's a need to, deal with the factions and make sure that, the credentials of those who would be going to conferences are verified on time, and that moving on, towards, the 2020 national conference, there's more of a unity as they argue.
Do you think this past weekend inspired confidence in terms of transparency when it comes to voting and results counting? When we look at regions like Ekurhuleni, there'd been some, lamenting that these, results where, of course, Mzwandile Masina also won chairpersonship were not fair. Some said that they were not fair. Some said that there were discrepancies. But did this weekend at least inspire some confidence that, at least as far as administrative and logistical, duties and responsibilities are concerned, the ANC did their part?
Yes, I think really they did their part. There was a lot of emphasis on, how, they tried to make sure that there's enough security moving towards the conference. And I think that is what, the people on the branch and the support of the ANC really want to see. And I think, moving forward, there would be, some more of a confidence for those who would be attending these conferences to say that, the people who are there because their votes are those who are supposed to be there. And I think that is a good indication moving forward.
All right, we'll leave it then. I appreciate you speaking to me this morning. That is, of course, Lebogang Legodi, our political analyst, just reflecting on this past weekend alone in terms of those elective conferences in different regions.